Yeah, man, rock and roll. I'm an open
Yeah,
book.
brilliant. So first of all, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Mass,
I'm excited to be chatting with you.
brilliant. So unless you've been living under a rock, this is Robert Sikes, aka Keto Savage. So the Keto King, I like to call him. um, Big fan. Read your book a couple of times. Really interesting. You're the founder of the Keto Brick, which we can get into at some point. And understand, are you a WNBF pro natural bodybuilder? Is that correct?
Yep, WNBF, which recently merged with the NANBF, but yeah, WNBF Pro Natural Bodybuilder.
Excellent. So yeah, is there anything you'd want to add to your introduction that I've should have said?
No, man. I mean, I'm a family man. I got two beautiful boys, wife. I've got an amazing crew. But yeah, everything that I do is all around nutrition. So building the keto brick, building an empire, educating people, coaching people, all that good stuff.
Excellent. And I wanted you on as a guest because one, probably selfish reasons that I'm a fan because I'm a natural bodybuilder myself. So I've looked up to people like yourself, and then even more so with the niche side of it being ketogenic, carnivore sort of type person.
Hmm.
There's not that many around the traditional 5, 6 meals a day, old school bodybuilding mentality. So could you take us down your backstory a little bit that you haven't always been a ketogenic bodybuilder, I presume? Just for our listeners. I know I've heard your story a few times, but yeah, just a bit of, in a nutshell, how you came across ketogenic bodybuilding and what it's like compared to traditional high carb bro bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely did the high carb bro body, but that's how I started. When I started lifting, I was 115 pounds soaking wet, so I was just scrawny, trying to build some biceps for the ladies probably. And everybody said you got to eat big to get big, so I was eating big, man. I was eating like 6,000 calories a day with food that I could afford at the time, which was like 800-calorie macho chimichangas with like 80 grams of carbs each, and just junk food, man, like gas station food. Not great by any means, but I bulked up to about 230 pounds, and I'm only 5'7", 5'8", so 230 pounds. I was pretty hefty. But I was delusional because I thought I was just freaking yoked. So I just was following all the wrong advice. And for my first competition, I went from 230 to 150 in about 12 weeks. So I lost about 80 pounds in 12 weeks, dieting way too aggressively, doing tons of cardio, lost a ton of strength, and then got really lean and won the show, but basically threw away my health in the process. After that competition was over, I did what every other bodybuilder does and went out to eat, had a celebratory meal. I literally gained 20 pounds overnight after that first competition. And it was just like a negative feedback loop ever since, man. Like it was binging, purging, eating disorders left and right. And that plagued me for, I don't know, 3 years, I want to say. And then I was just playing around with every single diet in the book to try and figure out how I can find something that worked for me, was sustainable and healthy. And I kind of stumbled on keto by accident, doing carbohydrate backloading. And lo and behold, I felt better without the carbs with carb backloading. So I decided to just phase them out completely. And that was pretty much keto, but this was before keto was popular. This was back in 2014, 2015. So there wasn't really any podcast, books, or YouTube channels out about ketogenic diet. So I just started dabbling with that, felt better, performed better, noticed a massive reduction in inflammation, and my relationship with food improved significantly. So for me, I was just sold on it. And then, fast forward to today, we know what that diet is, keto, and it's what I've been doing for the past 10 years now, 10, 11 years.
Excellent. It's very similar to me, and I think it was 2014. Was it John Kiefer with the backloading?
Yeah, yeah. John Keeper with the backloading.
Yeah,
So yeah, he had the carb night solution. He had backloading. And if you did backloading too, man, like you remember it was like recommending, pizza and ice cream and candy and all that stuff. And that's what I was doing. I mean, I would eat keto during the day and then I would slam like, a full tray of Betty Crocker brownies covered in peanut butter and syrup right before going to bed. And I mean it worked because it kind of like allowed me to binge intentionally, and it was like not frowned upon. But then I don't remember what it was, but one day I woke up and I'm like, probably not the healthiest decision long term to be doing this on a nightly basis. So that's when I switched.
yeah, that was the same with me. I think I was like in my early 20s, and I thought, oh, I'm getting lean. This is working. But then, in the back of your mind, I think this, how can this be healthy? But I didn't really care about my health back then. and you
Hmm.
just thought, oh, it's almost as if I can keep these addictive, bingy foods in still, and you feel like you've got away with it a little bit and found a bit of a loophole. But I was exactly the same. I thought this isn't right. Like, I haven't found the magic pill here at all. I'm just kind of. I think those ketogenic days were sort of offsetting it. Like you kind of got away with it a bit more, but like why not go like the full 100% and do it all?
Hmm.
And I think that's when I discovered like carnivore and things, and then that was like a light bulb moment that it all sort of fit together a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like, and when you actually like peel the curtain back and look at what a well formulated keto carnivore diet is, it's like this just makes sense. Like this is how human beings as a species should be eating food. I mean, like the stuff available to us nowadays is so far removed from what I would even define as food. Like it's no wonder we don't feel or perform well when we're eating, Pop Tarts and rice cakes all day long.
yeah, just this hyper palatable food. Yeah, it's
Mm.
I don't know about yourself. I feel like I've trained myself just not even to see that anymore. You walk into like a supermarket, grocery store, or you're at a kid's birthday party, or maybe at Christmas or something, and it's just kind of a bit of a blur to me. I don't see them as foods, and I don't. I used to be able to have to try and use some sort of mental energy and willpower, that finite resource of um, not doing it. That mental battle in your head, like, oh, shall I have it? Shall I not? And I thought, what am I doing? And I feel like the longer I've been sort of low carb carnivore away from those things, do you think abstinence really helps? Like the longer you go without them, that you don't even crave them anymore, and you don't have to have that mental battle and waste willpower energy
Oh,
on
for sure,
stuff.
man. I mean, like I remember when I was still before I had found keto, like I would go through the grocery store and I wouldn't allow myself to walk into the bakery section because I knew I wouldn't have the willpower to not just consume everything in sight. Now, I mean, it's like I'll walk through that and it's like, again, it's not even food in my mind. Like it's just junk. Like it's just noise that isn't even noise because it's not even audible anymore to me. Like I don't even recognize it. So yeah, that certainly improves with time. But then also too, like you just once you become adapted, so from a physiological standpoint, you don't have the fluctuation from a blood sugar, leptin, ghrelin standpoint. Everything's more stable. So like you have more, stable hunger signaling cues. But then from like a psychological standpoint, once you know what makes you feel well and perform better, it's like that's not something that I'm willing to sacrifice. Not even for that acute blip of bliss by eating that junk food. It's just like it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I'm exactly the same. It almost feels like a bit of a superpower, like
Mhm.
not even have to think about those. And obviously, we're still human, and like you might smell a pizza or something, and sometimes if I'm hungry and if I'm driving through like a town centre or something, and the takeaways are open and you smell it, I'm still human. I still think, oh, I could smash something up, but might be a few seconds. Then, like you said, you'd think we just think of all the detriment and the negatives from it. Like, why would I do that? You go
Yeah,
home, have your
and, like
steak.
yeah, when people I've spoken at a lot of conferences around, like, eating disorders because that's the background that I come from, and so much of disordered eating tendencies stems from feelings of guilt associated with the food you're eating, but if you're eating something that you know in your heart of hearts to not be fueling your body properly, you're going to have guilt with it, even if it's consumed in moderation, like, it's just not the best thing for you. Whereas like with a well-formulated ketogenic diet, there's no guilt associated with it. Like there's no guilt for eating quality foods that I know are fueling me appropriately.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think if I always think if you have to moderate something, then that's you're telling yourself that that must be a negative thing, perhaps. If I've got a bit of an addictive personality, so I'm sort of better having none than trying to have just one or two or one little piece of chocolate or one alcoholic beverage. Those sort of things. I think a lot of people might attest to that and actually think, yeah, they might not think they're addicted to it, but then when they try and cut it out, then they realize actually this was a big part of my life and life. So if you're not addicted to it, why do you still want it? And it's
Yeah.
yeah,
And food is weird, man, because like food, it's not like alcohol or crack cocaine. It's like there's a societal stigma to those things. But with food, there's like it's societally accepted to just eat. But for that reason, you can get away with things that you're doing in excess a lot more than you should. And, you're absolutely right. I feel like when you just recognize that for what it is and then remove it, a lot of people in the keto carnivore space are more so eliminators than they are moderators. And once you recognize that eliminating that is actually to your betterment and serving you at a higher capacity, it doesn't even feel like a sacrifice anymore.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And it's a shame that it's even with alcohol. I feel like it's really sociably acceptable. Like I feel like it's the only drug that you're weird for not taking. That's why I look at it as like, and it's a
Yeah,
shame. And and then same with food. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like you fit in with society, but then everyone's slowly getting more and more diabetic and obese, and it like
hmm
there's no free lunch, is there?
exactly.
Um, unless it's a keto brick, then you might be. We will get
Hey,
on to.
keto brick macros don't count, right?
There you go. So, Robert, how did it feel becoming the leanest man alive, the leanest natural alive?
It was tough, man. I mean, it's you certainly wouldn't want to sustain that. I mean, it was cool to go to that degree of definition and push myself mentally and physically to that point, but it's not something that you would want to adhere to for any length of time. And I tell people that, like competing in general is a great sport. Natural bodybuilding, I think, is the closest thing we've found to the fountain of youth, but you're absolutely sacrificing a little bit of health when you go that lean. But my argument has always been that the net positive exists because of the growth that you get psychologically from pushing yourself to that degree. As long as you're able to recognize that there is a yin yang relationship there, and you have to reverse that and operate at a healthier intake and body fat long term. But yeah, getting that lean, I mean, 3.9% via DEXA. Uh, yeah, I mean, my total testosterone was tanked, energy was down, cognition was actually still pretty high. I think that's the benefit of a ketogenic approach. It's like ketones were ramped up, so they were still crossing the blood-brain barrier, and I could still function cognitively speaking, and I could still function physically to do the training. But there's no extra, there's no, abundance to like have extra energy to go through the things that you want to do. I mean, you're just in a freaking monk mode mentality for sure.
Yeah, like I didn't get as lean as you. I didn't get mine tested, but you can usually just tell visually. But I'd say I was like under 6%, like being
Under
generous, maybe.
6% is impressive, man. I mean, like anything, especially for guys, but like anything under, like things start changing once you get single digit. And then once you start getting below 6, 5, 4, like things start shutting down. Hair stops growing, nails stop growing, uh, hormones get down regulated. Like things just change drastically at that point.
Yeah, and I suppose if going from 4 to 3 doesn't sound that big a deal, but it's a huge percentage of what's left of your body. So I bet that's a bigger jump from 5 to 4 than 4 to 3, and then imagine to 2. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you look at it like that, it's drastic. That 1% starts to be a big deal. But going from 20 to 19, you're not going to notice anything, are you?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, once you have no, because like you have to have some body fat or else you would die, obviously. But when you're flirting the edge as to like how lean can I get and not die, like that's kind of a scary place to be for sure.
Yeah, excellent. But I like how you haven't tried to sell it to people that like you can stay like that and that you felt great. Like even a low body fat, even if you're ketogenic, you're still going to have some negative effects that your body knows how much body fat it's got on board. Your
Yeah,
leptin's low, ghrelin all over the plate, you know.
yeah, and you're
You-
hungry. I mean, like you're hungry.
yeah,
Like that's gonna be the truth, no matter what diet you're on. Like it's no fun being that lean. It makes great pictures. It freaking rocked the bodybuilding stage. But honestly, my best look on the stage was probably when I was a little bit higher in body fat,
bit
because at
fuller.
that point I was just like to get to 3.9, like I had depleted muscle glycogen. I was flatter. Like I just lost size that made me appear fuller and better, from a bodybuilding standpoint. Like my whole goal was to be the leanest man alive, and the bodybuilding competitions were secondary. But going forward as a bodybuilder professionally now, the goal will obviously be to optimize for the bodybuilding stage, and that's not going to mean getting that lean.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that because even though I've read your book a couple of times, like proper start to finish, like for preps, because I think because of my personality, addictive wise, I seem to just run away with the like lowering the fat too much, and I eventually I did email you during the prep, which was great that you replied. I ended up on just chicken breast. I was like, how did that happen? That was never the plan. So I don't know. I just got carried away, and I've like, well, where can I chip away? And then, so that I wanted to ask you about was what is your sort of methods at keeping as much muscle as possible and keeping as much strength? Obviously, as naturals, your test's going to drop a little bit, and you're never going to be PRing in the gym like a week out, are you? It's
Yeah.
expected, but what is your sort of top tips at keeping as much muscle as possible?
Well, you've read the book, so you're familiar with my like 7-phase protocol. But for people that haven't read, it's basically like you start at your maintenance intake. So I'll start, roughly like my maintenance is roughly 3,000 calories. So I'll typically start a prep at my maintenance of around 3,000, and I'll start at a very high fat ratio, so 80% fat. So phase one is to establish that baseline. Phase two is I'll basically start increasing my protein while simultaneously decreasing my fat. So by starting at the 80% fat ratio, my protein intake is relatively low as a percentage relative to fat. So I'll start gradually chipping away at fat, increasing protein until I find my own unique protein threshold, which oftentimes comes when, for me, my protein is typically around 200 to 220 when I hit that protein threshold. That's when I transition into phase three. And protein threshold, I get a lot of questions on that. That's basically defined as when you elevate your protein to a point that you start to experience adverse effects as defined by GI distress, decreased ketone production, increased blood glucose, more joint pain and inflammation, less cognitive, function, and just honestly more bloat and increased hunger. Because at that point, especially if we're going about this with a fat adapted approach, this is where a lot of people go wrong in the bodybuilding world. They just push protein ad nauseum. Like you can't ever outdo protein, more protein, more protein, more protein. But protein is not a great substrate for energy. I mean, you can make glucose through gluconeogenesis, obviously, and your body can use that as a fuel substrate. But if you're trying to optimize for fat metabolism and you're consuming too much protein relative to fat at a given caloric intake, then you're not optimally, partitioning your fuel sources correctly. So when I hit that threshold, I'll start then dropping protein as well. So all the while, total calories are dropping. And then that puts me through phase four, which is when I start introducing ketogenic caloric refeeds. So at this point, my intake's pretty low. Hormones are down, metabolism's down regulated, and I'm typically at around, depends on what my show schedule is, but normally when I'm sub 2,000 calories, I'll start introducing keto caloric refeeds. And those are just a 20 to 30% increase above baseline, above my current baseline at that stage, from both fat and protein. And then I'll start adding sodium as well on the day of that refeed to try and finesse how I want to peak for the actual competition. So I'll basically make these phase four refeeds like trial peak week refeeds, so I can really finesse what my calories are, what my macro distribution is, how much sodium I'm consuming over baseline to figure out what ratio of all that my body responds best at so that I peak properly on show day. And then I'll just keep tweaking those numbers for the next few weeks until I get to the actual peak week, which is phase five. Do the competition, step on stage, ideally kick ass and win. And then I transition to phase six, which is basically the start of reverse dieting. So basically allowing my body to return to a healthy intake of food and a healthy body fat percentage. And I'll start increasing fats and proteins there. Pretty aggressive on the protein at that point too, because my protein is normally pretty low by that point in the prep. And then phase seven is when I phase out the refeeds and I kind of return to some degree of baseline and transition to a surplus where I'm actually focused on building muscle. And then that's where I spend the majority of my time. And that's pretty much how those 7 phases are illustrated. And you just keep repeating that process, getting better every time you cycle through.
Excellent. It's like you just reeled that off so quick. You must have said it a few times.
Yeah, well, I wrote the book, so it's
There you go.
I have that kind of ingrained in me for sure. I mean, like
Yeah.
I've worked with a few coaches, but my last time working with a coach was before I was keto, because when I went keto, there was nobody doing it from a bodybuilding standpoint that I knew of. So it was like, okay, I've got to pretty much write the script on this myself. Like I can't really lean on anybody because I don't know of anybody. So this protocol is just what I developed over trials and tribulations and experimentation.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. With the ketogenic refeeds,
Uh-huh.
so say that'd be at one point that'd be a weekly thing. So once you hit that point, it'd be that day of the week. What's the difference in your eyes between, say, like your calories went up 1,000 that day, just to keep it sort of, say you went up 1,000 calories, your fat mostly from your fat on that day. What would the difference between spreading that out through the week? Say you upped it on, say it was over 5 days and you put in like, or 4 days you did like 250, 250, 250, 250 sort of thing, rather than 1,000 on one day. Is there a difference between that, do you think?
Well, for me, I'm trying to treat this as like a trial peak week for the
Uh,
real deal. And what I have found the most positive response to is giving myself a very acute bolus of intake above baseline. So my body is just hyper responsive to it. And it's illustrated very clearly the next day in how my body looks. So like when I'll typically do like a keto refeed. I like that. It's something to look forward to. My body responds well to it. So my baseline intake will be typically ground beef and eggs, and we'll just say it's 1,700 calories on a day-to-day basis at that point. And then on the refeed day, which is oftentimes Friday because the shows are on Saturday, I'll have 20, 30, 40% increase in calories above baseline, so north of 2,000 calories for that meal. And I typically backload it, so the majority of my intake for the entire day is in the evening, and then I'll have a bolus of sodium with that meal. And basically, what the sodium is doing is it is drawing any fluid I have in my subcutaneous layer of skin and forcing it into the muscle tissues themselves. So my skin appears thinner, my muscles appear fuller, and it kind of brings out the vascularity more. That, in tandem with the increase in fat and protein, I fully replenish muscle glycogen, and I just look much better upon waking the next day. I'm oftentimes lighter the next day, like I'm just flushing out fluid that's not being held in my muscles, but it just, in my bladder, like I'm just flushing that out. Any excess fluid gets excreted. And then I just look super sharp the following day. Some people, women oftentimes will look better if they do a refeed 2 days prior to the competition. That way their body has a little bit more time to assimilate that nutrition. But for guys, especially ones that are very, very lean, competing in like a bodybuilding class as opposed to like a men's physique class, they'll typically notice the best response when they have it the day prior.
Nice. That's a good answer. It makes sense if you're trying to replicate and mimic what you're going to be like on show day.
Mm-hmm.
Then that makes perfect sense. So you alluded there to like your fat loading and filling out the muscles with glycogen, things like that. Do you find is that the same sort of physiology if I loaded with carbs compared to loaded with fat? Do as the fat getting turned into glycogen and like, is that
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's I mean, obviously, if you were to go from a carbohydrate standpoint, it would happen much more quickly because I mean, carbohydrates are used as an energy source and can fill muscle glycogen pretty expeditiously. Once you become deeply fat adapted, your rate of preserving and replenishing muscle glycogen is pretty much on par with those that consume carbohydrates. And you're able to do so through gluconeogenesis on the amino acids from the protein standpoint, and then using the glycerol backbone from a lipid standpoint of a triglyceride. So, like, you're able to do it with fats and proteins, no problemo. It just gets better and more efficient the more deeply fat adapted you become. This is why a lot of people who don't have that length and depth of adaptation, they'll try and do this protocol, after having cut carbs for a week. And they're like, well, I'm not filling out, I'm not eating carbs and I'm eating fat and protein and I'm not filling out. I'm like, yeah, but you've only been doing this for a week. You got to build up that metabolic machinery first.
Yeah, yeah, totally makes sense. And it's kind of like that keto. They're probably going to go through keto flu, and it's like they're trying to start from scratch, and it's
Yeah, I
just going
don't
to end
typically
badly.
recommend people start a competition prep with keto, at the onset. Like, get fat adapted first, establish those baselines from a performance and strength standpoint in a fat adapted state while you're at a surplus or at least a maintenance, and then transition to a competition prep with it. Like, I wouldn't start a competition prep, you know, as your introduction to starting keto.
Yeah, which I kind of did that when I discovered like carb backloading and carb night during a prep.
Yeah.
There was pros and cons of it, but that was my sort of first introduction to keto and insulin levels and all the physiology, and I found it fascinating. And I'm glad I discovered that. I think somebody sent me an ebook at university, and it made sense. But there's like a piece of cheesecake on the front of carb night. I'm like, oh, brilliant. But then halfway through the prep, I'm finding myself in like a supermarket car park, binging on donuts on my own, feeling guilty, not wanting anyone to see me. Like, what's going on? But
Yeah, it's, like that, like those moments where you're like just aware of what you're doing, and you're like, "Why in the hell am I doing this? This makes no sense to me. There's got to be a better way."
yeah, yeah. But then at the time, I didn't think there were, and the more I looked into it, I was thinking, oh, now I'm reading things that I need to have refeeds more often to spike my insulin because I'm too lean, and then you just before you know it, you're justifying having it every night, and then you're
Mhm,
backloading every night, and yeah, you go from there. Um, with with my prep, I competed last year, the first ever like full sort of keto carnivore prep, and it was basically 100% like mince ground beef. What I struggled to do was I sort of went from, so we call it like we'll say like 25% fat mince. So it's like 20 would be 80. You call it 80/20, don't you? Or
mhm,
95/5 and things. So I just kept gradually reducing the percentage of the fat.
mhm,
Um, and before you know it, I was on like 5%, and then I had to go chicken breast.
mhm.
So my question is like, if I wanted to just use ground beef, but doing it in a more sustainable approach to you, like starting with a really high fat percentage, finding your protein threshold, then slowly chipping away at the fat. Um, could that be done? Like, I'm trying to think of it mathematically. How would you do that? Would you have to like add tallow to the meal? Do you know if you wanted? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you could totally add a fat source, and this is like one of the reasons I made the Keto Brick to basically deliver 90 grams of fat from stearic acid in a very convenient fashion. But like if you were to do it, just with animal products, for instance, yeah, you could add butter, you could add just raw suet in and of itself would work fine. You could add definitely starting with the fattier cuts of meat, and then you could like change those ratios as you're adding protein and decreasing fat. But the key is once you find that protein threshold, then you have to start dropping the protein, which is going to make the fat as a percentage of total calories actually increasing. Like towards the end of my prep, I'm doing like the fattiest lamb that I can find with duck fat added to it. Like I want the higher fat ratio, which is totally counter to what most people do. It's counter to what you did. You're eating chicken breast. And I understand why people go crazy lean. It's like, hey, I'm trying to get leaner. I've only got so many calories to work with. I want more food volume. So let me do really lean protein sources. Like that sounds very fitting. Plus, if you're consuming more protein in the context of a deficit, you'll likely preserve your own lean tissue, right? But the thing is, again, you're not getting your energy optimally from that protein. You're getting that from the fat if you're being fat adapted. And the best preservation for your own skeletal muscle tissue is to keep it in demand, which is hard in the context of a deficit because your body wants to be catabolic and strip away the amino acids from your protein, your muscles, to fuel that void. But if you have no energy coming in because you're only eating chicken breasts, you can't really optimally fuel your workouts to create that stimulus and provide that demand. Whereas if you're consuming pretty ample dietary fat as a percentage of total calories, you've got pretty good energy coming in, and you can still train hard and heavy and intense and keep the muscle on your frame.
Yeah, brilliant. See, I needed that. But when you get prep brain, you just you
Mm-hmm. Prep
I'm
brain will
walking
get
around like yeah, like 1 in the morning awake, going for a walk for like 2 hours, thinking burn more fat. Um, but I'd already knew this, but I don't know why I didn't think of it. I heard a really good thing that was showing that you can only harness so much calories from your body fat in a 24-hour period. So I think it was something like for every pound of fat, it's like 30 calories. So like say you've got 10 pounds of fat on your body, you might only be able to harness 300 for the day, something like that. So obviously, like you just reminded me of it then, the leaner you're getting, if you're asked demanding that deficit from your body fat, but you can only harness so much from that, like if you're going from 5% to 4, that 1% between that, next on the chopping board is skeletal muscle. Do you know? Because
Mhm.
your body obviously you know yourself. You need some glucose at all times, like a teaspoon. Is it like 4 grams at one time in your bloodstream? So then I thought, no wonder I was losing muscle. Like I didn't have any other substrate, and that's where you're saying you need the percentage of fat with your like your lamb meals and stuff that needs to be high. And I
Yeah,
feel like yeah.
Because when you're that lean, I mean, you're pretty much running real time. Like there's no reserve on your frame to tap into. Like you're pretty much eating a meal and that's fueling that day's activities. Like there's no excess, no abundance. So like you got to make sure that what you are eating, while it's going to be less because you're trying to, have a negative energy balance and lose more body fat, like it still has to be a solid ratio of the right foods and fuels and micronutrients and energy sources that fuel your day-to-day activities at that point. And if you're consuming, rabbit meat and no fat, you're going to have rabbit starvation because you don't have any energy coming in. You're going to just feel miserable and you're going to lose muscle. Like when I did my first ketogenic competition prep, I never, this was before I had those 7 phases mapped out. And this is not optimal necessarily. This is why I made the 7 phases, because that is optimal. But I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And I just dropped protein the entirety of my prep. I didn't have that increased protein phase in phase 2. So by the end of my prep in 2017, I was only consuming like 62 or 65 grams of protein a day. Whereas everybody else that I'm competing against, they're consuming 250 or 300 grams of protein a day. Yet I lost less muscle than they did. I was seeing very negligible changes in strength throughout my prep, whereas they're massively reducing their strength output. They're reducing the strength output because they're losing muscle, and I'm not, and I'm eating pennies on the dollar of the amount of protein that they are. But it's because I had the energy coming in to keep that training intensity up and keep that muscle in demand.
Yeah, yeah. So you've obviously got the stimulus because you've got the fuel to provide it for the training. But then I also think, yeah, you didn't have to chop into your own muscle because you had enough fat on board and you fat adapted to be able
Mm-hmm.
to utilize it. I ended up like with the chicken breast, I ended up being over like 300 grams of protein from what I was eating, thinking that, well,
Mm-hmm.
this will keep muscle. And it's like, well, no. It's like, oh, you only need so much for your body. More isn't always is going to be better. I'd be so much better flipping that ratio around with the fat, which you just kind of learn from, don't you? And prep brain's a real thing, like
Mm-hmm. It is.
most definitely. So during your prep, and even now, I understand you probably have a keto brick every day. Can
Yeah, pretty
you,
much. Hey, eat a
yeah,
brick every day. Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about just its backstory, and like you don't have to spend too long on it, but just like why you came up with that product and where it's at today, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it was never even meant to be a product. It was just something that I made for my own personal consumption during my 2017 competition prep. Again, this was before keto was popular and there wasn't any convenient options for quality fat sources that were shelf stable. I wanted something to just streamline my meal prep and take the guesswork out of it. So I formulated the Keto Brick, which is basically the original version was made with cacao butter, which we still make them with cacao butter, and protein mix, but it was like basically 90 grams of fat, 30 grams of protein roughly, and very low total carbs, like 10 grams total carbs, and it's 1,000 calories. So basically a pretty significant portion of my daily intake in a really convenient, high quality, stearic acid rich keto brick. And then I would eat one of those a day in tandem with my other meal, my protein heavy meal, to figure out, and I would adjust it based off of the ratios I was targeting and whatnot, based off the goals. But yeah, I had one of those. I pretty much eat one every single day. I'll typically have that post workout, and then I'll have my larger meal in the evening before I go to bed. But that's pretty much my daily nutrition right there. And we've kept production in house. When we started, it was like me and my girlfriend at the time, wife now, making these, and we brought on cousins and friends, and now we've got several employees, and we've got our own facility with our gym, podcast studio, commercial kitchen, and we're just rocking and rolling, brother.
Love it, love it. So you're crushing it. Now I've seen the development from the early days. I followed you for quite a few years, but just for anyone that didn't know, that's it's great. 'Cause it just seems different to any other product. It's not like you're just trying to make money. It's like your pure passion, and it
Yeah, 'cause
shows.
I'm definitely not making money. Like it's the ingredients are crazy expensive. I mean, we have the tallow options now and the cacao options as the fat sources, but like they're crazy expensive ingredients. And like most bars use a co-packer, they put crap ingredients in there to have better margins. And it's like, look, I made this to improve health, and I'm not going to sacrifice on that.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's brilliant. Well, that was going to ask you, do you do a carnivore option?
Yeah, we have 2 carnivore flavors. We have a carnivore cake pop and a primal fudge. and they're great, man. They've got like a complete animal spectrum blend. There's like heart powder, liver powder, kidney powder, pancreas powder, spleen powder, bone marrow powder in there. And then we've got some with a beef protein isolate. We've got some that have whey proteins for those that don't have any intolerances to whey. We have some that have plant proteins for people that can't tolerate the whey or the carnivore options. So we've got all kinds of options.
Nice. No, I love it. Yeah, I see them pop up sometimes. Have you got any? Can you ship to the UK? Like a few years ago when I looked into that, has that changed? Like
We
you,
ship globally. I'm actually just
yeah,
about to make a freaking sales tax payment to the UK after I got this call for a lot of money because I'd have sales tax due in the UK because we ship to the UK. So yeah, we ship everywhere, man.
nice, nice. And yourself, have you ever gone like full carnivore? Do you know that I don't know how you define it, but do you know,
Yeah, it's funny, man, because like there's so many definitions and like diet camps these days. And realistically, I am more carnivore than a lot of these carnivore influencers that put carnivore in their Instagram bio. Um, my day-to-day nutrition, like I don't really eat that many plants at all. Like I'll occasionally have some Brussels sprouts or some broccoli, whatever, but literally maybe once every 6 weeks. Like it's pretty minimal. My day-to-day nutrition is heavy cream in my coffee, a keto brick after I work out, and then typically a bunch of meat and eggs for dinner. And that could be ground beef, it could be elk, it could be a steak, it could be, if it's leaner like chicken, I'll put some butter there with it, but pretty much heavy cream in my coffee, a keto brick, and then a bunch of meat and eggs. That's my staples.
yeah, which someone from the outside looking in would probably think, I couldn't do that. That's boring and restrictive. But I'm guessing you look forward to every meal.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, like when you know how much better you feel, and you could do a whole bunch of different things. I mean, you have all kinds of options at your. I mean, there's so many carnivore and keto recipe books out there, like it's crazy. But for me, I like to eat. I like to eat a lot, but I view food as fuel first and foremost, and I just want to eat the right amount of the right thing and let it be nourishing to my body and not over sensationalize it so much.
Yeah, I'm the same. It took me a lot of time to give up having junk and stuff. Like my son's nearly 7, and it was around that sort of time when I stopped drinking. I tried to eat better because I think if I'm sat eating like a pizza or something, how can I tell him not to? Do you know that was a big light bulb moment for me,
Mhm.
because I just wanted to set a good example, and it like don't get me wrong, like I probably class I might cheat like if I go on holiday in like every sort of 6 months or something like that. Sometimes I don't plan on it. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. Like some holidays, I've just gone straight to the butcher's and got all my food for the week, and that's it. And I've stayed really strict. And then the last one I went on was last year, and I had some on the last night because I knew if I had it on the first night, that I could be off all week, you
Mhm.
know. And I always regret it. I wake up the next day, but you never wake up the next day if you didn't do it, thinking, I wish I'd have had it, you know.
Yep.
Um, so I seem to go bigger and bigger gaps without having bad food again. And to be honest, I feel like I get to the point where I've let it, I can let it go. And I did it at one point. I daren't say like I'm never having that again. But do you feel quite liberated? Like when did you get to the point where you thought I'm happy and content with not having that again? Do you feel like that now, or
Yeah, yeah, I totally feel like that now, but I mean, I honestly like, I don't have like, some people have, like, the day they went keto or the day they went carnivore, like, immortalized in their I have no idea. Like, I know it was somewhere in 2014, 2015 after my 2nd competition that year. I don't know exactly what day it was. I just know that when I broke free of my eating disorders, which was, like, plaguing me, that was cause enough for me to just never look back. Like, that was debilitating for me psychologically and emotionally. And since that time, I have not deviated once. So I've been strict keto now for 10, 11 years, and I've got no reason to go back, and I've got no desire to go back.
yeah, no, it's impressive. And it's same with me when if I've gone, I'll have nearly gone 7 years without alcohol, and then people say, "Oh, really well done," like all, and it's like to be honest, once you've done a few months, it's not an achievement anymore because I'm not. It's not like I'm craving it more and more the longer it goes on. Like, oh, next I'll go another year. It just becomes your new norm, doesn't it? And it's same with food as well.
It's It's funny
Yeah.
the alcohol, man, because I used to, I never had a problem with alcohol. Like I never drank in excess. I mean, I probably drank in excess in like college for a little bit, but I was never like addicted to alcohol. That was never my thing. But I was doing a 50-mile march one year for veterans, and the people I was marching with did drink quite a bit, and they were like, "Let's just make another hard challenge for us. Let's do a year without alcohol." And I was walking right beside him, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, sign me up. I'll do it as well." And I did it, and I just haven't drank since then. And I think that had to have been probably like 4 years ago now. So I haven't had a drop of alcohol in 4 years or more or less. And I don't know if it's 3 or 4 years, but like it's not something that I miss at all, you know?
Yeah, I just kind of forget it exists unless you're in that environment, and the longer you're away from it, and then I do feel sorry for people that do. You see, it's a crutch for them, and they are, whether they want to admit it, you think they are addicted. You see them come home from, and they crack the tinny open, the can, I don't think they realize they need it until they cut it out and they get some
Mhm.
withdrawals and things like that. And same with the food. I feel people are, what's the way around? Like, I feel like we eat to live and they live to eat. Is that, if that
Mhm.
makes sense? Like every social
Exactly.
event is, and then I think, right, okay, take the alcohol away, turn up with your lunchbox, and then
Mhm.
see if you still want to go to all these events. Like your life just completely changes, I think. And I think you realize you're only there for the wrong reasons, not to spend time with like friends and loved ones and family. You're probably there for the alcohol. And if they're not, you say, well, go to that event, go to that concert and not drink. Oh, I can't do that. Like I want it. And to me, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like that's just an addiction. Like, is that
Yeah, totally, man. 100%. I mean, like, it's so societally accepted that it's not even taboo. Um, but like when you don't do it, you recognize it. Like you see how much of a significance people place on it, how much they fixate on it. And definitely with food too. Like people don't even focus on the relationships anymore. They don't focus on the conversation. They just focus on the food in front of them. Everything's around food or around alcohol. And it's like when I'm meeting people for the first time, rather than me going out for a drink or going out for coffee or going out for food, it's like, hey, let's go meet at the gym. Let's go do some deadlifts. Let's go meet for the first time and go pump some iron. You know, I'm going to have a much better grasp as to who you are as a person if I can see how much more willing you are to struggle with deadlifts than anything else, you know?
I like that. Yeah, I'm similar. Even something simple like a walk in the woods, or yeah, that sounds a bit creepy, but someone new. But or like a sauna or a cold plunge, ice bath, stuff like that. And to be honest, it's a bit sad. Really, I'd like an old friend that gets in touch now and again, and I'll do the same. I'll say, "Oh, you come to the gym, or we'll go for a walk, or for a sauna," and they want to go for a beer, and I'm the sad person. But you kind of have to. So do you tell people that you might have to sort of let friends go that probably were just drinking partners? Do you know if you really broke it down? And
I didn't really have just a whole lot of just standalone drinking partners. I had one guy that I drank a lot with, but that wasn't the only thing we did. Like we hunted a lot together too. But but yeah, if I had, I mean, I definitely had friends that were not elevating their own lives in any form or fashion, whether that be alcohol or food or fitness or just aspirations of leveling up in life. And yeah, those people, you know, I mean, the old saying, you're the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. I mean, there's like truth to that.
I
So
just
like,
wrote that. I just wrote that down.
yeah, so it's like, okay, if they're not leveling up themselves, then what is that gonna do for me? And you don't wanna have relationships with this, like, this sense of what can I get out of it? And it's not that at all. Like, you just need to associate with people that are trying to be the best version of themselves to make it more conducive for you to be the best version of yourself, you know?
Massively, yeah. I feel like it is massively from a place of like love and care. Do you know, when you just want the best for that person, if it's someone you've grown up with or it's a family member, and sometimes you end up having to distance yourself because you don't have, yeah, you have less in common. So it's like you either have to bring yourself down to their level in a way and join in with those activities that you don't quite agree with and feel comfortable just to fit in, or you
Mhm.
might have to separate yourself from the pack and get a new pack almost. Or yeah, and the right people will follow, like you said, like invite them to the gym, see what they're made of. And yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And I think that I find that people don't realize how unhealthy they are until they see you being healthy around them. It's almost like you're holding a mirror up to them. Do you know, if you're sat there
Mhm.
not drinking in a room of 10 people, nine are drinking, they're sort of like, what, are you better than me? Do you know, like, and I think it highlights their thing. Oh, how do you not drink? Oh, I couldn't do that. And do you know what I mean? Like almost holding a mirror up to them, but you're not trying to be like inflammatory towards them or negative. You, they just, I feel like they do take a little bit of offense and step back, and yeah.
Well, it's like the crabs in a bucket thing. You know, you can have a you've heard that
No, no.
saying. So basically, you get a bunch of crabs in a bucket. You don't even have to put a lid on it because, like, as one crab tries to crawl out of the bucket, all the other crabs will grab them and pull them back down. You know, like misery loves company. They don't want you to succeed because then it makes them feel bad about themselves and their life choices. You know, like you just gotta elevate yourself, and sometimes that comes at the expense of their relationship with you.
Yeah, I like that analogy. I'll use that one. And it's because I was on a podcast the other day and they asked me at the end, like, what advice would you give to people like wanting to start like a keto carnivore? So, and it straight away, my answer just came in my head that was like, um, just be the black sheep almost. You know, don't be afraid to go against the grain because you're going to look a bit of a weirdo if you've got a lunchbox with you. Or if you're, even if you just, if I've got like my ground beef mince and like, oh, do you not want some vegetables with that? Or that can't be healthy. You're going to get pushback, aren't you? And I just said, maybe have like an answer ready for them. And I always think like, just say like, I feel my best this way. And then it's hard to argue that, or say you're doing a challenge. I'm doing a 90-day challenge, and they
Yeah.
seem to sort of feel like, okay, you'll be back to us after 90 days. That's cool. We can deal with that.
Yeah, and the thing is there's so many people out there doing this now. Like it's not even taboo as much anymore. So like plug into your tribe of people that care, that are doing something similar and have some accountability in that regard. Like yeah, your friends and family may not be on board, but man, there's people online somewhere that are, and lean into them, you know, like we're all interconnected these days for sure.
Yeah, I find that the community, they're really friendly people, and
Mhm.
like I said, like compared to when you started, like if it was 2014 around that, it's so different, and it's getting a bit more mainstream almost.
Yep.
Um, you never know. There might be a degree at university eventually, or something like that. In
Wouldn't be a bad thing. Wouldn't be a bad.
I think that'd be great. So just a quick change of shift. I'm gravitating towards one meal a day at the moment. I have been for a while, not on purpose. I just kind of, like you said, you kind of like to eat and feel full and satisfied. I don't know if it's because if when we used to have like 5, 6 meals, small meals a day, and you just got used to not feeling full, and then when
Yeah.
you switch to it,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like feeling full. I like feeling full, but I don't like feeling weighed down and just bloated. And I can eat a lot of meat and feel full and not weighed down and bloated. I mean, I could put down like 3 or 4 pounds of meat and feel totally fine. But if I do that multiple times a day, I'm going to put on body fat and get, you know, excessively overweight. So I don't need to do that. So I'll typically have 1 or 2 meals a day as well for the same reason. Like I would, and when I'm in a deficit coming down for a competition, like I'll typically do an OMAD approach that I can have one larger meal as opposed to multiple smaller meals that always just leave me wanting more.
yeah, I started my prep like that, like the OMAD style, and then for some
Mhm.
reason I went into two, but I probably should have kept it at that. I kind of just thought, right, okay, I'm just going to see when I get hungry, and it used to get to about sort of 5 o'clock at night, and I thought, well, I better have something now. Um, and then you have that then, and then I'm going to be in bed at like 8, 9 o'clock, so I'm not going to eat again now. And yeah, I think OMAD seemed to really work well.
Mhm.
But obviously calories still matter, as you sort of alluded to with it. If you could eat a lot more if you forced it down, but I do find I can eat more, but I think I could eat a lot more if it was hyper palatable,
Oh, for sure,
like
for
stuff
sure.
like that. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you could definitely it's way easier to eat intuitively with a well-formulated keto or carnivore diet because it's generally higher quality food and you're getting more accurate hunger signaling cues from your body. But that doesn't mean that you can just consume in excess with no recourse. I mean, if you can absolutely gain body fat on a strict carnivore diet. I mean, like I've done it a million times intentionally, but I've done it for sure. I mean, you can absolutely go overboard and put on body fat.
Yeah, and I think the reverse is obviously true when you're trying to diet down for a show. You can't just, because there used to be this paradigm, sort of like the more fat you eat, the more fat you'll burn. It's like calories still matter, and you have to be aware of it. Like you'll know to the gram what fat you're having, what calories you still need to chip
Yeah.
away. You can't just keep adding cream to your coffee and because you want to burn fat. It doesn't
Yeah,
work
yeah.
like
I
that.
mean, like you can burn fat at a greater degree when you are fat adapted, for sure. But you can also store fat easier too. So like it's not as easy as like the headlines and viral posts make it sound like. The energy balance definitely still comes into the equation for sure. And I perform better when I'm operating at a relatively high fat percentage of total calories. Uh, Obviously, got to have enough protein as well. But yeah, this notion that calories don't count when you're keto or carnivore is total nonsense. I don't know, honestly, why it gained as much traction as it has.
Yeah, I think that was a John Kiefer article that I saw in like a Muscle and Fitness magazine or something, and
That
that
he was
blew me away.
saying that it didn't count, that calories didn't
It was
count.
it was it was kind of like more that you need to eat fat to burn fat, basically. But it's like, well, what? So if I fast for 48 hours, I'm not going to burn any body fat because I haven't eaten any like exogenous fats. It was kind of like that, and it threw me off a bit. I might have misunderstood the post. It was a long time ago,
Huh.
but obviously, yeah, calories still matter, and I think the people need to be aware of that. If you to try and achieve the body that you want, that these Instagram people are like, when you've been on stage and things like that, as you've already sort of spoke of, you're not going to sustain it, and you're probably not going to feel good unless you're a genetic outlier. Like, we're supposed to have this body fat set point of a, like, everyone's different now. That I seem to sit around, I'd say around 15% body fat. My testosterone feels good. Do you know, everything's sort of normal?
Yeah,
What are you
that's
like?
where I'm at right now. I'm at about 15% right now. That's where I intentionally try and keep it when I'm in a building phase. Like hormones are more stable, satiety is better, sleep is better, strength is better, recovery is better. Like you're able to actually be a bodybuilder and build your body better when you are at a healthy body fat. When you're cutting down for competition, that looks really cool and it's really awesome. And what you have to do psychologically to get there is impressive, but you're not building your body. You're cutting your body in that setting. So you should spend more time body building than body cutting.
I like that. I thought this earlier because it's called bodybuilding. I think we forget that, and it's not body
Mm.
maintenance. It's not
Yep.
body wasting away to a skeleton, which I did.
Yep.
I'll have to try put some of your pictures up as well from you competed.
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke
Yeah.
about that, and yeah, because like really impressive. But yeah, I had the bodybuilding in my head, and I think I get carried away and just think I'm just getting leaner and leaner, and it's like it's not a dieting competition.
Hmm.
It's and like you said, you do think you had a better look when you was slightly higher body fat percentage on stage.
Yeah. I think my best look was probably when I was around 4.5% body fat. 3.9 was just gnarly, man. Like it was
Yeah.
just, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't recommend that.
Yeah, which as we said, from that to just not even like a percent higher, or it's a big difference once you're down there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
like
sure.
40. Yeah, yeah. So the name Keto Savage, where did that come from?
I'm trying to remember, man. Like that was, I remember having like a notebook full of a bunch of different names that I thought was fitting when I started the brand way back in 2016. Or no, yeah, 2016 was when I started Keto Savage. But it just seemed right because a ketogenic diet is a species appropriate diet. It's primal. We all kind of have this innate primal fortitude, energy, power, zeal, life about us if we tap into our innate desires. And I feel like eating food that is species appropriate, that's primitive in a sense, that isn't hyper palatable, processed, and just nonsense goes hand in hand with what we're supposed to do as a human being. And there's like this savage ring or this primal, power ring to savage. So it just all seemed to coalesce and make sense in my mind.
No, I like it because it's at first, especially back then, you're kind of going to be an outlier and a bit of a weirdo if you don't eat carbs. So I think it's good how you've made it cool. Do you know,
Mm,
like the lion diet that Michaela Peterson speaks of, that she already felt a bit of a like an outlier, so she wanted to make it cool. She already had to be a bit strange compared to everyone else. So I think it's give it a cool name, and it's really powerful.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what other names you had in the pipeline.
Yeah, I gotta find that notebook. I don't even know where it is. I don't even know if that paper exists anymore, but it had there was a bunch of them on there for sure.
I bet, yeah. Do you know Ted Naiman? Are you aware of
Yeah,
Ted?
yeah, I've had him on the
Yeah.
podcast a couple times.
Oh, nice. 'Cause I think that's where I first heard of you.
Oh, really?
So I don't know what the conversation was. It was probably regarding, it was using you as an example of somebody that could build a lot of muscle without carbs. So that's how I discovered yourself. And then I was like straight on Instagram and had a look, or whatever. It might not have been Instagram back then, but I found you on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, I
And I was like,
like
oh,
Ted.
okay.
He and I have different stances on things, but Ted's a bright guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I really like. I think he's really good at explaining something to like the layman, and
Hmm.
like breaks it down really easy with like graphs. And that's where I heard about the harnessing like 30 calories per pound of body fat from.
Hmm.
I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's where I heard you. So what's in the pipeline for yourself, Robert,
Man, I've
at the
always
minute?
got something cooking. I've got Keto Brick business keep me busy for sure. We're gonna relaunch my coaching program. I've got like a membership site. I've got like a group coaching component, and then just a ton of content around these 7 phases. So I'm gonna be migrating that to a different software and relaunching that before long. We're gonna be launching an apparel line before long that uses natural fibers, so it's a healthier apparel line, so to speak. And then we've got the 2 kiddos that are keeping us busy. So always something in the pipeline. And the competition. Like I'm a promoter for a show now too. So we host our own competition and have competitors come in from all over for that.
Yeah, yeah. I kept seeing it pop up last year while I was competing, and do you know, like looking back now, you think, oh, I should have just carried on dieting for that. But like a day feels like a week, and a week feels like a month when you're dieting, doesn't it? And it was too far away for me. But I
Yep.
liked it. Yeah, is it the Savage? Is the in the name? What's the name
Yeah,
of the show?
natural state savages, because the natural state is Arkansas, which is where we're at, locationally speaking. So the natural state savages, it's a natural show, so it made sense there.
Love it.
And then I'll compete again in 2027 probably. So I'll be dieting down before too long myself.
Well, that was my next question with
Yep.
you.
Yep.
So 2027's the goal.
That's the tentative goal. That's probably what's going to happen. It kind of depends on the kiddos and whatnot, but that's probably when it's going to shake out.
Yeah, I like it because you like to have a maybe like 3 years off season at least,
Yeah, I
something
mean, my
like that. Do you
last
think?
competitive season was 2023, so I've intentionally taken a little bit of time off this go around to just really put on some more muscle, and I have. So I'm excited to see what it looks like come show day. It's going to be best package yet. That's the beauty of it. You keep getting better if you do it right.
That's it. Bodybuilding, not body maintenance. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I want to respect your time. I really appreciate you coming on. I think you've give some great golden nuggets, truth and gems in there. Um, for people that don't follow you already, where can they find you? Like, how can they get the bricks?
Yeah, well, first of all, appreciate that you having me on, Rob. It always great talking with you, man. I've enjoyed chatting with you back and forth on Instagram over the years for sure. Keto Savage for me, Keto Brick for the bricks, ketobrick.com, Keto Brick on socials. And then if anybody wants the coaching or the course or any of the membership component, that's all at ketobodybuilding.com.
Perfect. Nah, I love it. And yeah, thanks again. And I'll bob all those in the description show notes thing. And yeah, I'll try to get some pictures up. But yeah, if we don't, just check out Robert's Instagram and his YouTube, and you'll learn a lot. And where can we get your book?
That's at ketobodybuilding.com as well, or ketogenicbodybuildingbook.com too. It's on Amazon, all that good stuff.
Nice. No, highly recommend it. And if you need a coach, Robert's your man, and get his book. But yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it,
for your
brother.
time. Yep, great chat. Thanks very much.
Take care.
You too.